My watch is way off. Good thing I came early.
Is that clock right? Are we a minute away about?
Yes.
I guess our computer's got them on, don't it?
Yeah, it does.
9 o'clock.
Do we
We
have,
gotta wait 1 second here for
Yep,
Greg.
Greg. Oh, we don't have to wait for him.
Well, he asked if we would wait a
Did he?
second,
Oh,
so.
if he asked, I guess if he asked nicely.
He says, can I hang my phone?
have it opened. I
If
think
there's
I'm okay.
nobody in there to talk to, we'll be fine.
Yeah, if he says just a minute, you're in trouble. I thought Jeff was bad.
Yeah, no, not even
He's
close.
not even on the same
Is
league.
he
He's
standing?
coming.
Oh.
I'm staring at him. I gave him the stare down. He knows. He's putting him, he's accessorizing.
Give him the stink eye.
We could just all stand up and be ready for.
Sure we are, right about now.
We were talking about you.
Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. Let's stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, Mr. Chair.
Morning, Mr. Chair.
Morning, everybody. Welcome, everybody that's here. Could I get a motion to approve the county board minutes? Got a motion by
Second.
Wincher, seconded by Jelinski. Any further discussion? None, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? There are none. Can I get a motion on that?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion? None, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Social service report.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioner.
Morning, Brad.
Morning, Brad. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Brad.
Good morning. Today Karen is here to report on one of those critical programs that the federal government funds and that we work with TRICAP on providing. So this is a report on energy assistance.
Good morning. As Brad said, Energy Assistance Program, it's an excellent program. It's handled by TRICAP. There's 3 phases of the program: primary heat, energy-related repair, and crisis. So you have to be eligible, income eligible, in order to get primary. If you get primary, you're basically eligible for the ERR and the crisis if you have an energy-related repair or a crisis situation. So how it's determined is it goes by household size and your income. A household size of 1 can make $28,266. Household size of 2 can make $36,963. Then it goes by your consumption and your income. So if you have an older home that consumes a lot of heat, your energy grant is going to be higher than someone that doesn't have a high consumption. So we've provided, to show you Benton, Sherburne, and Stearns comparison to Morrison County. Morrison County served 812 households. $528,971 was issued. In comparison to Benton, we served quite a few compared to them, but of course Stearns is so much bigger than us. Now, for heat sources, they can have electric heat, they can have fuel oil, they can have propane, they can have natural gas, and they can have wood. So it pays for all types of heating sources. Moving on to energy-related repair, if you're eligible for the Energy Assistance Program and your furnace breaks down, you call Energy Assistance and they'll send someone out. If it's fixable, they'll repair it. If it's not, they'll replace it. But you have to be eligible for the energy program in order to qualify for the ERR program. Again, Morrison County, we served 14 households. $33,386. You can see Stearns was quite a bit higher, but Benton served 10, so they must have replaced more furnaces because they spent more money. Okay, and the crisis program. Of course, if you're eligible for the primary program, you're eligible to receive crisis, but you have to have a crisis situation. So you got your primary heat grant, and now down the road, it's a cold winter, And it turns out that you don't have the money for another, say, a fill of oil. Okay, you call the energy program. They will deliver, under the crisis program, the minimum fill. So it can give you some extra money. If you have electric disconnect, you can use it for that also. You can only use it once, though. And the energy program, one thing I didn't mention is there is no asset test. It's just income test. And there again, for the crisis program, we serve 23 households in Morrison County. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Jelinski?
Karen, you've done this for a long time, and that I do know. And that's not mentioning anything about ages, but we both know how old we are.
Yeah, we do.
So, you know, and things have changed without a question with all of this energy
Right.
assistance stuff. And perhaps at one time, many years ago, it was, I'm not gonna call anybody because I don't want anybody to know that I needed help. I know that all of this stuff is held private or secret.
Data
whatever.
privacy, yep.
Nobody advertises this, but I know that there are people in the community that we live that are harder to convince to reach out for help. Do we reach out, or do we actually wait for them to reach out? I'm anticipating we have to wait for them to reach out, but it's harder for some people to reach out than it is for others.
It is harder for some people. It takes, sometimes if they call and they ask if there's any help, you have to kind of tell them that it is data privacy. No one's going to know. And then we refer them to TRICAP to make that application.
Okay.
You're right, Jeff. Some people don't want to ask for help.
It's a tough thing, but you have done such a remarkable job with this for a long time. And
Well,
mean
thank
that-
you. I appreciate
mean
that.
positively, as positive
Thank
can
you.
be. That there's someone that needs assistance, it's cold outside, good grief, what are we gonna do? Stand back and do nothing? So truly, again, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wincher?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is this the same as Tri-County Community Action, or this is Tri-County?
It's the same.
Oh, it is, okay.
It
so then-
is.
So
Tri-Cap.
this is, well, is it, it's not Tri-Cap, is it?
Well, Tri-County Action Program,
Right, Community TCC,
Mm-hmm.
that's what this is, because
Nope.
that's the board.
This
Nope.
is the one out of Sauk Rapids or
Okay,
Wade
see, I
Park.
wanted to clarify
Yeah.
that, so.
TCC is in town here, you
Right,
mean?
but they're called Tri-County too, Tri-County Community Action.
I don't know the difference.
TRICAP is Wade Park,
Yep.
TCC is Little Falls,
Yep.
Todd, and Crow Wing County. So I'm not sure what the TCC stands for. but-
Tri-County Community Action.
So,
Yeah, I mean, that's TCCAP, that's what the, so, because I sit on that board. And we
Okay.
do the same thing here with the heat and that sort too, so that's why I wanted to clarify. So this is out of St. Cloud. this
Right.
one
Correct.
is. So that's where they would go apply for in St. Cloud. They can't come to the courthouse, they can't come to anywhere else, is that right?
The applications are available online. We can print one for them. They could pick one up here. Yeah, or we can mail one to them. Most people mail them in.
Okay, yeah.
and this
that was-
does not require a face-to-face interview, so they can do everything over the phone, through internet. So that they're not required to go to St. Cloud or even come to our office if
Right.
they're interested in
I'm
heating
glad that was
assistance.
clarified, thank you for me
Yeah,
anyway.
most people, well, they're mailed the application if they were on the program the prior year. They automatically get another application.
And TRICAP has the same thing too. They offer heat assistant, right? Just like-
Right,
So they basically, there's three different, they all kind of TCCCCC this, you know, so you gotta make sure you get which one you're talking to, so thank you.
And TRICAP out of St. Cloud has the federal grant, because this is federal money that flows to the counties to provide heating assistance to our residents. So they actually get a federal grant for Morrison County residents.
It's actually an excellent program.
Yeah, most of them are, thank you.
Karen, would I be right to presume that out of the 812 people that, for the primary heat, then out of that 812, the 14 that got help with energy-related repairs, that comes out of that 812 people, right?
Yes, they
And
have
also
to,
the 7 that,
yes.
or the 23 that,
They're part of that 812.
12, okay.
They have to qualify for the main program in order to get the other two.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank
Anybody
you.
got any other questions?
Thank you.
And again,
Ron,
this is
thank
a
you,
program that
Karen.
helps especially maybe the older population remain in their own home if they're so interested. So again, very good program, can't say that enough.
You know, if I may, Mr. One, I brought this up probably before and clarified. If I'm the owner of the house, but I have low-income renters in that house, can I apply for that money?
You would have to qualify income-wise, and you can't.
Me or the renter?
You can't apply for a rental property. It's a property you have to own and live in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Brad, are you on for?
I have a public health RBA, food, beverage, and lodging. Approval for an annual establishment license for Patrick's, and a mobile food unit renewal and additional kitchen license for Backdraft Barbecue. All fees, licenses, and taxes are paid for both of these.
I'll make a motion to approve, Mr.
Got a,
Chair.
got a motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by
Second?
Commissioner Wincher. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. And then I just have a couple of questions and announcements. The first is March is almost here, and it's Food Shelf Month. And just making sure the commissioners are okay again with our agency, Public Health and Social Services, spearheading some activities to raise money for the food shelf in March. And again, the state asked that I just come forward and get permission from the commissioners during a meeting, so.
Rock on.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Thank you. Staff looks forward to it, and hopefully it'll bring a little bit of normalcy, given where we're at still in 2021. So, and then I just did want to let the commissioners know that tomorrow we start our first round of second doses for the vaccine, Moderna. So I know some of us are going to get second doses tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. It's been all over the board in terms of how people react to the second doses, and to some degree even the first, but I've heard more interesting comments about the second dose. And I would just again like to say thank you to CHI St. Gabriel's. We have partnered with them. They have been to all 5 schools. We have redistributed some of the vaccine that we have received as local public health to CHI St. Gabriel's. So they've done all 5 districts. There are still a few teachers who will be left. There's still not quite enough vaccine for all the educators. And the vaccine that we got this week was specifically for K through 12 educators. So it's been a good partnership. Appreciate what CHI has done to assist in vaccinating the community.
That's great.
Ms. Gruber?
And Mr. Chair, I just wanted to note too that the state kind of continues to redirect how they're prioritizing. Like Brad said, this week, the vaccine that we received and had ordered was required to go to K-12, which is great, but it just then limits those that have access otherwise, or those that would normally or would have been in the priority hierarchy earlier. And so that continues to change and is a moving target. So reminding the public that, we're doing our best with the numbers of vaccines that we get and trying to redistribute those accordingly. But we're kind of at the mercy of the state telling us what to do in that regard also.
And St. Gabriel still isn't taking like appointments or anything? They're still on a call-only basis?
Yep, they're still when they get vaccine, they're calling patients 65 plus who have kind of meet their criteria and just going down the list. So they're continuing to do that.
So Brad, St. Gabriel's, they get their allocation. They're not from our allocation, right?
We have redistributed some of our allocation to them to do 65 plus and K-12 educators, but they are also getting another allocation from a different source than we get ours from.
Because you said last week, I think, that we had 600 doses, but they might have had 300 doses. Okay.
Yep, there is the vaccine database that is now up and running, and it is on our COVID-19 dashboard site. So if you want to see where Morrison County is at, and I looked yesterday, and I want to say I'm not even going to say anymore, but we were at a certain percentage, pretty comparable to our surrounding counties, and you can see kind of where other counties are. So.
Sounds good.
All right.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Brad.
Go ahead, Randy.
I don't know where I seen this or read it. Todd County, we gave them like 200 vials of whatever. Is that, maybe you can clarify that? I think I read something. Is that because we didn't have enough people participating? Or was that because they had an emergency? Hey, we'll take 200. What happens when you send them 200? Is that 200 less people we can vaccinate in our county? Just throwing that out there.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner. When we got our first allocation, so this was very early in the process, only Wadena and Morrison received vaccines, and not knowing what was going to happen with those vaccines, because we're a CHB, both Wadena and Morrison transferred 30 doses to Todd County so they could start to vaccinate some of their population as well. Since that time, we've not redistributed to other counties, but that was that first initial allocation that all the counties got, and they asked that we try to move that around a little bit. So we only gave them 30 doses initially, and now they're getting their own. We're all getting our own based on the state, however the state is allocating those doses.
All right, thanks for that. David.
Case rate of 8.7.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Commissioner, for bringing that up. Our case rate continues to decrease, and so a lot of good factors, and I think the schools feel much more comfortable being in person as they continue to move forward. So we hope that trend continues, or it probably remains the same, so we've had a few days with actually 0 positive tests, so,
Good.
And highest was, what, 119, I think it says here.
yeah.
So we've come a long way.
November, December were very rocky months, to say the least.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
the
for your
updates.
information.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Next, we'll have Land Services report. Amy? Welcome, Donnie and Debbie.
Morning.
Wanted to introduce you, first of all, to our new feedlot officer.
Oh, okay.
This is Robert Wall. And he, actually, I failed to introduce him at the Planning Commission meeting, but he did sit in on the Planning Commission meeting and heard this item that I'm bringing forward to you today. So we're happy to have him. All right, so the first item I have for you is to consider the conditional use permit application for Donald and Deborah Hayes. And this is to establish a Tier 3 hog feedlot. This was recommended by the Planning Commission with 4 conditions. And those conditions are to abide by local and state law, notify road authority when hauling manure during road restrictions, abide by the good neighbor, feedlot order minimization, and stormwater plans. And also the feedlot owner shall notify the feedlot officer of manure cleanout. The applicant is here today also, so if you have any questions for them, just wanted to let you know that they're here.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it for more discussion.
We got a motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by Commissioner Wincher. More discussion? Commissioner Jelinski.
Mr. Chair, if I may. Amy?
Yes.
If I may. First of all, I have a couple of questions. I'm not against this as a whole idea, but I just have a couple of questions. Can you explain to us, for the billionth time, the Good Neighbor Plan?
So the Good Neighbor Plan is a document that's part of a complete application, and it essentially is a document that asks the applicant to recognize and identify the neighbors around them, around the barn, and then also around the manure application areas. And then it also requires them to identify best practices that they're going to observe in really out of respect for their neighbors and the odor and disruption that manure management and farming creates for their neighbors. So that's really on a 20,000 foot view what the Good Neighbor Plan is, and then also by condition, then we require that whatever they identified in that plan also make it as a condition that they adhere to it and observe what they said they were going to do.
How do we follow up on that?
We follow up when we're doing inspections. We will ask for those notifications. We'll review the Good Neighbor Plan before we go out on an inspection, and then ask to see evidence of them adhering to that. Also, if we receive a complaint that they're not adhering to it, then we're also following up that way.
And to lay the cards out on the table, I spoke with Amy yesterday because the concern that I have is not about this in particular application. The concern that I have is perhaps about this application and perhaps future applications. And I asked Amy yesterday the million-dollar question that I really don't have an answer to yet. Is there a chemical known to mankind that you can sprinkle on a manure pit that is enclosed, which if I just need to be on the right page, the manure pit is underneath this physical location, that you can sprinkle on, dump on, whatever, that cuts the smell, and I'm gonna use the word noticeably. So that's
Okay.
my next question.
So first, I want to qualify, odor is subjective.
Yep.
So really what smells to me doesn't smell to somebody else. So it's a real objective thing that we're trying to measure with odor. There are many pit additives that are marketed for foam reduction in the pit, and then also with the added benefit of odor reduction. There have been some recent studies on pit additives in various scenarios, and they have mixed reviews as far as when it comes to whether or not they effectively reduce odor or not. There was one study that looked at, and it was in a real live pit situation, not in a test situation, where they did see a reduction in ammonia gas and hydrogen sulfide gas by 20%. Now, that can, to the, in the nose of the beholder, I guess that can be a negligible amount, whether it's noticeable or not. And so there are many additives that are marketed that claim that. There are not a lot of studies to back up those claims.
Okay, fair enough. And then I'm gonna hopefully end it with my next question, which of course I can't see on my screen because I don't know where it is. Help me out with the 95% or the 91% odor, I'm sorry, I can't remember how it's written.
Offset rating.
Offset rating. And maybe I'll just speak a little first, is that we have a 95% odor offset rating, if I'm saying that right?
Yes.
For this in particular proposed feedlot that we're talking about. So I'm not necessarily buying it, just for the sake of argument, but does that mean that 95% of the time, subjectively speaking, there's no smell?
I would not say that it's saying there's no smell. What the offset stands for is Orders from Feedlots Setback Estimation Tool. That's what
Okay.
offset stands for. And it's a modeling tool that assumes the prevailing wind is always in the same direction. You input the size of the barn, the number of head, any control technologies that are happening, setback from the nearest residence and all of that. And what it does is it models the percentage of the time that someone would not, it's not saying it would be odor-free, it's saying that 95% of the time, the odor would not be offensive. So I don't think that there's ever a time where a feedlot is not going to have some noticeable odor. But this tool is our best tool, I guess, to estimate what percentage of the time the odor would rise to the level where it would be an issue, I guess, for a neighbor that it would be.
And then a quick follow-up to that. The reason that I'm asking that in particular question is because at the Planning Commission meeting, there was one individual that made a comment and something to the effect of, well, I live across the road. Whether we live across the road or not is neither here nor there, but I want to know what it's going to smell like and how the stink is going to be handled. And quite honestly, I think that that person deserves a better answer than, well, we've got the 95% offset rating or whatever it might be. But at the same time, I'm very clear, where we live, animals smell. That's the way things operate. That's just life in the fast lane. So based upon what I understood you to say, there is no real chemical that we can add to the manure pit necessarily that's going to cut down on the smell. Although in the past, I am confident of this. I can't remember the exact barn or barns, but we have made it a condition that they add XYZ to the manure to help in reducing the odor.
Yes. That is correct. We have conditioned that for pit additives, and generally that's been part of the discussion. And those pit additives have been planned for by the applicant already. There are other technologies that can be utilized, such as fiber filters on the end of the exhaust fans, biofilters. Those are other technologies that could be implemented for odor reduction. The pit additive technology, however, hasn't been proven out in studies to really have the benefit that I think they're marketed to have. The other thing is I did send Deb an email with a image, and I just want to show you on your screens. So there I've got the proposed barn with the direction of the prevailing winds in the winter and in the summer. And just to give you a kind of a neighborhood view of where the homes are in that area and the times of year where you may have a prevailing wind in the direction of a home. And the property to the east is the one in question, or that had that concern. So the other things that we can look at as far as for mixing of odor would be vegetative buffers. So a tree line or several rows of trees to mix that air and cut that air in the times of year when we have a prevailing wind from that direction. So I just wanted to show you that so you can kind of see the neighborhood and see how those winds would move through that barn and off the property.
Thank you, Amy. Mr. Chair, can I ask one more thing? Of the applicant who is in the building?
Yep.
If I may, and I don't mean to put the applicant on the spot, but I wonder if you could help me out, maybe help the board out, and tell me what the plans are, if there are any, for fan control, for exhaust control, for smell control. And like I said, I'm very clear. I know what animals smell like. I'm very clear on that. But I wonder if you can kind of help me and the board to understand what your process is going to be.
Yep, absolutely. So we've been working with our contractors and the engineers on this, and we've been working with, it's called a smart controller, which is our fan system. So that fan system will run automatically. Like depending on where the wind is coming from, certain fans will turn off, other fans will go on. We also can operate them from our cell phone. So if we're not home, the wind changes, it will alert us. Also, so from what we've been told by contractors and what's worked for other people too is they've been doing more like fans in the walls and less fans in the pit to keep things moving. That brings less odor up, but is still keeping the pigs healthy.
Okay.
So, and then I guess the other thing would be is we have talked about the chemicals and additives that can be added to the pit. Of course, we still have more work to do. We're trying to come up with and engineer this the best way we can. This barn is gonna be closer to our home than anybody else's, and we don't necessarily want that smell either, so.
Deborah and Donald, thank you very kindly, and I mean this, for coming here today. And thank you for your answer. Amy, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. That's all I have.
Commissioner Wincher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Amy, on the findings of fact, paragraph 3, I'll just kind of start there. And again, I'm not just picking on this applicant. We've had numerous of these applicants, and I just think that these need to be addressed sometime in the near future, not now. But in this case, the applicant has required so many acres to spread their manure, whatever, the nitrogen and all that.
Yes.
My question with this one, if the applicant, and it's becoming very more and more people are hiring these manure haulers. I mean, there's some huge machinery and all that stuff on there. Is it the ag applicants, that has to request and call the neighbors? Or is it gonna be the hauler that's gonna have to say, hey, we're hauling it to point A to B? That's one of my first questions.
Great question, thank you. It would be on the producer. So this is the permit runs with their land, they are the ones that are beholden to that. So depending on how they arrange that, they can certainly delegate that requirement to their hauler, but when we're inspecting and what we're looking for notice, we're looking for notice to have gone out. If notice has not gone out, we will hold the property owner responsible for that.
So at the time when this application is, they're told this, the applicant is that, hey, you know, if you hire somebody to haul manure, it's not their responsibility, it's mine. So they're not gonna play ignorance and say, oh, I didn't know that at the time, and now it's getting hauled. So that's what happens?
That's generally when we're issuing the conditional use permit, then we're working with them on what their conditions are. And when they're communicating to us when they're pumping, that's also one of the requirements is when they're spreading, they need to be contacting us and we have that conversation with them at that time.
And thank you for that. Now the acreage is always again, that's been a conversation piece. If, I'm gonna use Commissioner Lemire, he's sitting next to me, so he's got 400 acres that I can say, you know what, I'm gonna use his land. Now I got Commissioner Jelinski, I got 300 acres to use his land. Now I'm gonna come in, hey, Commissioner Lemire, can I use your land? Sure, I already got this applicant using 400. Well, you know what, go ahead, put my name on it again, be another 400. So now you got 2 applicants, which we've had, where, how do we address those to keep track of that? And I know we had a challenge before, to moving forward, how do we address those where they're not doubling up on land applications?
We have developed a tool with our GIS coordinator on mapping those. So as we get manure management plans in, we map those acres that are claimed on a manure management plan. And then when we get subsequent plans in, then we're cross-referencing that. So we can see if that field has been already accounted for in someone else's plan. And then there's communication back to the applicant saying this field is already being claimed. And then it's really kind of a research project for us because we need to know, all right, what has changed? Is that field no longer receiving manure? So then we're dealing with someone else's manure management plan. So we've gotten much better with tracking that and mapping that. So at a glance, we can see if the acreage they're claiming is accounted for in someone else's manure management plan, and then we deal with it from there.
All right, and then with the conditions, under the condition that says abide by local and state law, I understand that. But then if you put 1 and 3 1 and 2 together, where it says hauling manure during road restrictions, correct me, I don't believe ag producers have road restrictions on their machinery that they can take as many or as heavy as they want.
I believe they're exempt from road restrictions. However, this is a courtesy that we are extending to our road authorities so they can monitor the condition of their roads despite their exemption.
So that hauler that has nothing to do with the ag, he just does that for a living, do they have road restrictions? Because I mean, again, we got tremendous large machinery, but they're more commercial business. Are they exempt too, do we know?
That, I do not know the answer.
And
to that
I'd like to
question.
find that out if they are, because again, they're going down the road during
Yep.
these times. And again, I'm all for that. Again, I'm gonna put this down in there because this is a question that I would eventually like to have answered. And then my final question is, or I should say 2 questions. What is the consequences if I don't follow up on a good neighbor? So I don't call, again, I'll use Commissioner, I don't call him up and say I'm gonna be hauling or putting manure, a quarter of a mile away from you. What's the consequences if I don't call him? And then what, again, that person, if these haulers are hauling 2 or 3 miles away, that applicant has to call me and say, hey, I'm hauling from 2 or 3 miles away. I'm gonna be spreading it on your local field, which happens, I don't care, but that's me. But it's becoming a very challenging thing out there because again, I have producers calling other producers or calling me and saying, I think Joe didn't do this or this, that. So it's getting to be, so those are a couple of questions that I think I'll yield to then Mike.
Okay, so the question, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that what happens if they're not abiding by the Good Neighbor Plan?
Correct.
Because right now, at least, and if you make it a condition that they abide by that, then that's a violation of their conditional use permit. And so, within the ordinance, it's a violation, and so, of course, we're always gonna be working with that, applicant to come into compliance, which would be to start notifying. If it's a continued issue, then that comes before the county board, and you have quite an array of corrective actions that you can implement at that time, depending on how egregious it is and how you're feeling about that. So we would treat it as a violation of their permit.
And this is all, and again, I know I talk here, this is all part of the application process. So when we have a dirt
Yes.
meeting, develop a review team, this is all told to the applicant that this is the things that are needed, rather than say, you know what, oh, you didn't tell me.
Yes, they are informed of what makes a complete application at the development review team meeting, yes. And we don't put it in front of the planning commission unless we have a complete application.
All right, thanks.
Mr. Chair, a follow-up, please?
Go ahead, Mr. Januski.
And I'll be very quick on this, and I'm not sure who I'm addressing this to, if I'm addressing this to you, Amy, or if I'm addressing this to the owners. If you've read the odor management plan, you've read the longest sentence known to mankind, which is all one paragraph. So I'm just gonna start at the end.
Commissioner, are you picking up my grammar?
No, not at all, not at all. I'm gonna just start at the end of it, and where it reads, notify neighbors of manure agitation periods and avoid holidays, consult the MPCA and CFO. First of all, I don't know what the CFO is, but that's immaterial.
County Feedlot Officer.
There we go. Now I do know. To identify changes that can be made to reduce odors following complaints for odor minimization. This is so loaded that, in the sense of the word, I'm a little embarrassed because it's extremely loaded. I believe that we have two people in the back of the room that are saying, we are going to do our very best to do whatever it is that we can do to do this. We live on this property also. I heard you just say that. But it says the very last 5 words, following complaints for odor minimization. So somebody's going to complain, and be it me, for the sake of argument. It stinks. We have put pit additives in. You just kind of told me a little bit about fans and the new designs in the walls. Okay, what's the next step that we're going to do? We've done what we can do. So does that end there?
What I would do,
Just asking the question.
yeah, nope, what I would do is I would then be in contact with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency
Okay.
to get a hydrogen sulfide reading
Okay.
out there to make sure that we're not exceeding air quality standards.
Okay.
And I think that's what our role would be at that point, is to make sure that we don't have an exceedance of air quality. Because if we do, then probably one of those technologies isn't working properly, or something in the barn is not working properly. And so that would be my next step, to just measure that, to make sure that we don't have something else going on operationally
Very good.
with the barn.
Okay, Mr. Chair, thank you. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you. Any other questions? I've got one. When we say notify people a quarter of a mile, I think it was, it's from where they're hauling the manure, right?
Correct.
Not the barn.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes, from the fields receiving manure.
okay.
Yes.
And another question, maybe Debbie, you could answer me this here. When you put an additive in a pit, whatever, does that come out of, do you have to pay for that? Or do I think you get your hogs from people that you're just raising it for them. So is that your cost, or is that the owner's cost of the hogs?
I do believe that's our cost.
It is, okay, because that was a
Yes.
question
And
we've
it
had.
would be the same, like with the fans and changing filters and everything, that's all going toward helping with this odor minimization. So that definitely would be our cost.
Okay. And I just want you to know, a lot of these questions that have been asked today, we're trying to redo ourselves just plain on hog barns, because whenever we have these, we do get a lot of questions from people, and we've been getting them, and we haven't had a hog barn application for a while. So I think we are trying to refresh our memory on a lot of this. It's not personally against you, so. Okay, thank you. If there's no more questions, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. All right, and then I have one more item for you today. And I'm requesting approval of the attached abstract of abatements. These are our fire abatements that happen on an annual basis. And so you received a detailed list of those properties within your packet, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
I didn't realize we had so many fires in the last year.
You know, I didn't either.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Can I get a motion? Motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by Commissioner Blaine. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank
That's
you
all I
very
have.
much.
Thank you very kindly. Have
Robert,
a
again,
good day.
welcome. Good to
And
meet
welcome
you.
aboard.
Thank you, thank you.
Robert, who's your folks up in your area?
My parents are Herbert and Joni.
Okay, Herb, yep, okay. I knew you were the, I knew it had to be one of them.
Yep, Ron's my uncle, and
Yep.
Jim and Catherine were.
He lives in Morrison County, right? Mr. Chair? Yeah, that's what I thought.
We won't ask for your, social security number and driver's license or anything.
That'll be next
just
time.
Yeah. Just your family history.
Thanks.
Thank you, Robert.
Good morning, Chelsea.
Good morning.
Chelsea, auditors report.
This morning, I have requests for approval for the annual audit engagement letter from the Office of the State Auditors to conduct our Morrison County 2020 audit.
Can I get a motion on that?
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Next on the agenda, I have a resolution requesting the approval of the abatement of penalty on late payments of property taxes for taxes payable in 2021. This is a abatement from May 18th of this year through July 31st.
Could I get a motion on that?
So move, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by Commissioner Blaine. Any further discussion?
I know the
Commissioner
answer to
Winter.
this, Mr. Chair, but Chelsea, could you explain to me what abatement means?
Abatement is a reduction. So this is reducing the penalty. As you can see on the second page of the resolution, on May 18th, you'll see the penalty brackets for 2%, 4% for non-homestead, and then June, July, it goes up every month. So this resolution would be reducing that set rate by the state.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Chelsea, I know the answer to this, but why are we proposing to reduce the penalty? We're not reducing taxes, but why are we proposing to reduce the penalty?
If I could read off the resolution, that will
Please.
cover your question. So this resolution mirrors last year's resolution. Whereas on March 13th of last year, Governor Tim Walz issued Executive Order 20-01 declaring a peacetime state of emergency in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas in 2020 and 2021, Governor Walz issued emergency executive orders ordering the temporary closure of all public and private schools to help slow the spread of COVID-19. And whereas this year and last year, Governor Walz issued emergency executive orders ordering the temporary closure of bars, restaurants, and other places of accommodation to help slow the spread of the pandemic. And whereas in 2020 and 2021, orders have been issued to provide certain relief to employers and unemployed workers during the COVID-19 emergency. And whereas Morrison County Board of Commissioners recognize that the economic insecurity caused by the COVID-19 pandemic will be a major concern for many Minnesotans. And whereas Morrison County desires to provide temporary relief to its residents and businesses within the county that have been directly or indirectly impacted by the economic pressure caused by COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas Morrison County recognizes that as a result of unemployment, loss or reduced wages, and the loss of business income, the prompt payment for property taxes will be a major economic pressure for many county residents this year. Whereas pursuant to Minnesota Statute 279.01 Subdivision 2, the county board may, with the concurrence of the county treasurer, abate the penalty for late payment of property taxes. And whereas the county board finds that imposing the full penalty for late payment of property taxes in 2021 would be unjust and unreasonable, and further finds that partially abating the penalties associated with the late payment of property taxes in 2021 furthers the economic interest of the county and its residents and business owners. And whereas Morrison County Auditor Treasurer has indicated that she concurs with the board's findings and the desire to partially abate the penalty for late payments of taxes in 2021. Now therefore it be resolved, the Morrison County Board of Commissioners as follows, pursuant to Minnesota Statute 279.01 Subdivision 2, the county board hereby delegates to the Morrison County Auditor Treasurer the power to abate penalty provided by the Minnesota statute for late payments of property taxes payable in 2021. To extend provided for this resolution, the county board further requests that the Morrison County Auditor Treasurer impose the following modified penalties for late payment of property taxes due and payable in 2021 for all applicable property classifications. For taxes paid between May 18th, 2021 and June 30th, 2021, a penalty of 1% of the unpaid tax otherwise due and owing. For taxes paid between July 1st and July 31st, a penalty of 2% of the unpaid tax otherwise due and owing. For taxes paid on or after August 1st, 2021, the penalty otherwise imposed by law. And for references only, the penalty schedule is listed below. This resolution does not limit the authority of the county board or the auditor treasurer to abate taxes or property values as otherwise provided by law.
Chelsea, thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? If not, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Chelsea, on that.
Mr.
you.
Chair, Chelsea, do you plan on doing any type of statement stuff or anything, if I could ask for this, or just, I didn't know if you had intentions of doing that, being we're approving that ahead of schedule or not, or?
Annually, I put in the Morrison County Record a notice of property taxes and also on the radio. So I can include this resolution that was approved.
Well, I think the penalty, or the schedule usually is printed on the statements, so if it differs from that, just wondering if you had any plans or thought about that or anything with that communication, because it would be, I think it's printed on the back of the statements, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
It is printed on the back. I can work with the vendor to see if they can make modifications.
Or just maybe put a note that it differs or something like that, just as a thought. I don't know if it matters for sure or not, but it'd be nice to let folks know.
Yeah, we can look at that. There's always a cost for changes, so.
Yes, there is.
Okay, anything else, Chelsea?
Next, I just have requests to approve board warrants.
Can I get a motion to approve the warrants?
I'll
So-
make that motion to pay all the bills, Mr. Chair, but I think did we vote on that last one?
Yeah.
Yep.
We did, didn't we?
I think so.
Yep, we did.
Okay, sorry.
Second?
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Lemire to pay the bills. This is a roll call. Commissioner Wincher,
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski,
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine, Commissioner Wilson, aye. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And one other thing, if I could add, just a reminder that Ice Fest, the largest assembly license, is approved for February 13th and 14th. So not this coming weekend, but next weekend. And all requirements have been met with both the sheriff and public health director and myself, so,
Sounds good.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
yes.
Great, thank you.
Okay, next we have Public Works Report. Steve, welcome.
Morning, Steve.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members
Morning,
of the
Steve.
board, ladies. I got a little bit of everything, I think, today. For your consideration. So it might not feel like it, but it won't be long and weather conditions will improve and we're going to have to implement road restrictions. So we're requesting that the board will authorize the department to do that when MnDOT goes on with road restrictions on the trunk highway system. We implement ours and we would remove ours at the same time when MnDOT removes theirs. Okay, can I get a motion on that to,
I'll make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
we got a motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Blaine. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a quick question, since we
go
have
ahead.
the guy who knows almost everything when it
Yes,
comes to
go.
road restrictions? We just had a question that Commissioner Winter asked regarding commercial ag, like manure haulers. Do you know, are they exempt under those ag statutes that exempt producers from road restriction adherence?
If they are hauling with licensed vehicles, they have to comply with road restrictions.
Okay,
If they're hauling with vehicles of animal husbandry, they have some exemptions. Okay.
see, the guy knows a lot.
Nope, doesn't even hesitate, just.
Nope,
it's
just
right
boom,
there.
yep, no,
Okay.
I knew we could count on him, thanks. Steve.
Right, we'll
thought
go
it
to
was
the
a
next
trick.
one here.
It was an easy one, right?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the second request for board action, as the board's well aware, throughout the summer construction season, the department utilizes materials from gravel pits throughout the county. Depending on where the work is occurring, our request is the board would authorize the department or my appointee to negotiate gravel pit agreements in locations that are close to minimize our hauling distances for the projects that may come up throughout that construction season.
So moved.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Winter,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Jelinski. Any further discussions? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the next request for board action has two aspects of it. Our recycling program that we put out to our townships and cities is a little different than some counties. We provide grants to other local units of government, and we allow them to develop their own programs. And it's been a very and this has got to be in place for getting close to 30 years. It's been very successful, I believe. All our cities are on organized collection with mandatory recycling programs in place. Our townships, there might be a couple that are not in the cluster groups where they have at least bi-monthly opportunities to recycle, but nearly all of them under our arrangement do have that. And we support that by providing grant funds to the townships and cities to help pay for those programs. We had a fairly substantial increase from the 2019 to the 2020 grant cycle. From the 20 to 21 cycle, though, with the attempt to keep our levy and everything at zero, these grants are the same as last year. And so our recycling grants are based on $2 per person. The 2010 census, $2 per person for each city or township group. And our cleanup day grants are based on $1.85 per household in those cities or townships. And so our resolution basically explains our program. It authorizes us to submit the grant agreements to the local units of government. And then once they are returned, if everything's in compliance, then I would sign off on those and we would provide those grant funds to those local units. We'd request each resolution would be adopted separately by the board, one for the recycling and one for the cleanup day.
I'll make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by Commissioner Wincher. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Jelinski.
Steve, this isn't meant to make it that the townships hold a cleanup day and it is 100% free. This is to help the township in making it somewhat reasonable for a township resident to bring recycled material, or whatever that material is, to the town hall, as an example.
That's correct. Our real attempt is to cover their administrative costs, their advertising, some of those things. Typically, there are charges when those materials are delivered to these locations.
Beautiful, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Lemire.
Obviously, there's stipulations that the cities and the townships have to follow, is that correct?
Correct.
How do we know, like, for instance, when, was it the city of Little Falls didn't want to recycle glass? How did we know that they weren't going to recycle glass?
Well, that one, we kind of picked that up through the local media, that was occurring. We have been doing, I think, a better job in contacting the cities and the townships and what their program consists of. So our environmental manager is staying in closer contact with these local units and the township clusters to make sure their contracts are up to date and that the requirements of the grant agreements are being met.
Okay. That answered my question. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
So that was the recycling grant, and then the cleanup day grant would be the other action item Steve would be looking for.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by Commissioner Jelinski. Any further discussion? Not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we have a request for another solid waste hauler license, this by Grinning Bear Roll-Off. They are actually located out of the county in Cass County. They haul roll-offs in the Motley and in kind of that northwestern part of the county. They're looking to license so that, and we have followed through. They have met the requirements of our ordinance to license. And so our recommendation would be that we would grant a hauler's license to Grinning Bear Roll-Off.
Okay, could I get a motion on that?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion? Not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. Then, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the last request for board action is authorization for the Public Works Director to enter into the grant agreement with the DNR for the Sioux Line Trail Bridge abutment repair. Normally, these agreements would be authorized for the chairman and the administrator, but the way the DNR is doing that now with electronic signature, and they set it up usually by who's making the application. And so this is a little bit different than what we've done in the past. The agreement has gone through legal review. Brian didn't have any issues with it, but the request would be that I would be able to authorize the grant agreement so that we could proceed with this project, which is repairing the caps on the abutment wing walls on the Sioux Line Trail Bridge over the Mississippi River. We have a $150,000 grant from the DNR, and we would provide a $50,000 match to do this work.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Wincher, seconded by
I'll second it.
Commissioner Jelinski. Any further discussion? Commissioner Wincher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, we took a tour here, I don't know, last fall maybe, and it's quite the process what's going through on this Sioux Line. I mean, there's some difficult work by looking at what we're doing, but this is a necessity. I guess I'm just looking at it, either we get this work done, or we would probably have to close the bridge, because it's, what, 100 and some years old? And, you know, things wear out after 100 years, you know, so that was just, it was a nice tour to see what we're doing on this too, so to keep the bridge open.
Steve, I have a question. Last year, they sprayed on cement like, right? And is that what they'll do now for the top part, or will they frame them in and replace them?
For this project, that's called shotcrete, and for this project, we're anticipating, because the caps on the wing walls are nice, straight, even lines,
Okay.
and that they can get at them relatively easily, our intention is that they would form those and not use shotcrete. That shotcrete really was beneficial for the pier stems when they were out in the river, and it's so difficult
This
to.
is on the side of the banks like, right, where it comes
These
off?
these are on, yeah, each end of the bridge, and they actually hold back the embankments.
Yep, okay.
And it's just the concrete is deteriorating pretty badly over the time period that the structure's been in place.
Well, you've done a great job out there in the last few years. It's really, it was in pretty rough shape when you started doing this, and it really looks nice now.
Mr. Chair, if I may, and again, this is just a comment too, just to put that out there. We're not in this alone, because is it Minnesota Power was also involved in doing some repurposing, redoing, and that was like, I think the explanation is anything below the water level is theirs, anything above is ours, is that correct?
Kind of a unique situation with the Sioux Line Trail Bridge in that it went in after, or the dam went in after the Sioux Line Trail Bridge was in place. And so when that happened, in the building of the dam, it was agreed that the power company would be responsible for the substructure of the Sioux Line Bridge because of the turbulence that's occurred when it came over the dam and the potential for erosion and that type of thing, scouring to take the bridge out. And so Minnesota Power, matter of fact, we just received the underwater inspection report from them for the Sioux Line Trail. So they watch that, they're responsible for that, and anything above that water line is our responsibility.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Jelinski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Steve, well, none of us can predict the future very clearly, and I know that although you do a phenomenal job at predicting the future, after this piece to that project is complete, that just about does it for that bridge, doesn't it?
Yes.
For maybe the next 100 years or something?
Well,
We don't
I
know.
wouldn't go
We-
out that far, but.
We can't predict the future, I get that, but
It's gonna, I think that any kind of major work on the structure itself will be completed for quite some time. One of the things we are looking at is potentially stabilizing the slopes with some quarry run riprap, that type of thing, but not actual work on the structure itself.
excellent, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Have a good day, Steve, or week, I should say.
Administrators report.
Mr. Chair, we have one action item. Steve's here today to talk about that, regarding our building project and final payment for a couple of the contractors.
Morning, Steve.
Morning, Steve.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board, there's a few more finals on the building project. I'm anticipating that these should all be done by March. A lot of times what these contractors have troubles with is getting their subcontractors to get them information to get these things moving along, but there's nothing really going on. It's just the fact that these are rolling in a little bit at a time. I want to say there's at least 5 or 6 left of final contracts, so.
Okay, I need a motion on that. Motion by
moved.
Commissioner
Second.
Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. This is any further discussion? Not, this is a roll call vote. Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, Mr. Chair, related to the building, we do have a building committee scheduled next week after the board meeting to go over a couple of things yet with the project, with the bond proceeds and with the building fund, about some different things coming up. So we'll talk about that next week. But otherwise, like Steve said, this will continue to kind of trickle in just so we can wait for those and then we'll conclude everything and be done. But that's that. And I think, Steve, did you say you wanted to schedule a budget?
Yeah, I
committee?
wanted to, if I could get a budget meeting scheduled, I guess next week there's a building committee, so we got the 16th, 23rd, or the 2nd of March. You can do it after the board, sure, 16th, is that a planning?
That's a planning. We do have, on the 17th in the afternoon, a meeting scheduled, but we have a specific topic regarding those grants, so
Second
maybe
one.
Maybe the 23rd.
You said,
We have connect with the
we
commissioners.
do, it would
so-
be following that would be the only option for them.
you said the 16th was a planning. I think it's a board meeting, right?
Oh, did I say that? I'm sorry.
No,
It's a-
Steve said
Yep, it's a
planning.
board
It's a
meeting. You're
board
correct,
meeting,
yep.
no.
Yep.
And that's when we have this other meeting's after next week.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Drainage Authority is right after board on the 16th though, right? or no?
It's gonna be during board, actually. We're gonna recess board and then we're gonna convene a drainage and then convene the board again. But.
Should we do it
same.
16th after the board meeting?
That works for me. You did see that I put a packet of information in your mail there, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, we'll do that then on the 16th, the budget, you're gonna send out a thing for us to accept?
Well, why don't
Yep.
we schedule it at 10:30, Steve? That way if we are done.
Yep. I'll put it at 10:30. I'll send out a calendar invite to everyone and
Sounds good.
should be good. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good day.
Anything else, Deb?
Nope, just continue to receive applications. I think we're, upwards of 80, 85 or so that we've received for the business relief program. I certainly am, busy with that, but it's good to talk to business owners. It's good to communicate with them
Deb, I
regarding.
ask you this every time. When is the last application?
On Friday. Yep, Friday at 4:30. And then I will have that information compiled. I'll get you guys some type of spreadsheet with a recommendation next week, and then we meet on the 17th to kind of go over those specifics. So you'll have some time to really take a look at it. Other than that, we're moving on and continuing forward. That's about it.
Okay.
Anybody have anything for me?
Okay, next we'll do committee reports and schedules. What are we looking at, Tabitha?
February 7th through February 20th.
February 7th through the 20th. Commissioner Jelinski, would you like to go first?
Sure. On Monday, February 8th at noon, I have a Teams call, I believe, with Homeless Priorities with a Minnesota Coalition. I just got a call about that the other day and asked if I would be on that call, and I said, bring it on. I was free, so that's at noon. On February 9th at 8:30 in the morning, we have a planning meeting here at the Government Center. And at noon, I have a scheduled Towards Zero Death meeting. However, we also have a building committee meeting, and that's why I don't know if that's gonna work. But if it does, it does, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. On the 10th, there's a department head meeting. On the 12th at 10 o'clock in the morning, there's a Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board RAC meeting. That would be virtual.
Mr. Chair, if I could just interrupt, that department head meeting is canceled. We're going to,
Thank you.
due to some scheduling conflicts.
Okay, that's fine. On the 16th, at 9 o'clock in the morning, there's a county board meeting, which will include a drainage committee meeting, for drainage authority, and there will be a budget meeting that same day. On the 17th, at 9 o'clock in the morning, I have an AMC legislative conference call. That's all virtual, I guess. I have no idea why I have at 1 o'clock, there's a budget meeting, but I don't think we have a budget meeting, do we?
On the 17th?
We do have one, yes, we do. And at 5 o'clock that same evening, I have a Hands of Hope meeting. On Thursday, the 18th at 9 o'clock,
The budget meeting's on the 16th, isn't it?
Yep,
Well, both.
we have a budget,
we have two budget meetings.
business relief.
It's
The
the
business
budget.
relief grant program.
Yep,
Yep.
the budget committee, essentially, to look
All
at
right.
that. Yep,
That's at 1 o'clock.
yep. And we're going to meet upstairs in that old admin area conference room because there'll be a clinic in here happening at the time.
On the 18th at 9 o'clock, I have a AMC Legislative Conference virtual meeting. And I think I said that wrong. I believe that's at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Blaine. Thank you, Jeff.
On Thursday, the 18th at 7 PM, I have an Ag Society meeting, otherwise that should be it.
And I think I'm all covered. Commissioner Lemire?
Oh, sorry. Just when I switched over. 8th, Yellow Ribbon, 5:30. It has been Teams, but I don't find out until right before. And then the 18th, I got the Long Prairie 1 Watershed 1 plan from 9 to 12. Otherwise, they got everything else.
Did you? No, go ahead. No, Commissioner Wincher yet.
I know I'm not that, I'm like Jimmy, or what's his name, whatever, we don't care. That comedian, no respect.
Rodney.
Rodney Dangerfield. They don't even know I'm here, people in TV land.
Do you have any?
Yes, I do. 2 questions. Are we still having a Public Works this Friday?
Yes.
And it's gonna be at Public Works?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, just want to verify that. And then Great River Regional Library on the 16th, it's a Zoom at 6 o'clock, otherwise you got me covered.
Okay,
On the 16th, yeah.
okay, thank you. Tabitha, you were talking trails. Jeff, that's the one that I took
There's
over.
trails on the 11th at 5 o'clock, or there should be.
Okay, I need to contact him because I'll be gone all next week, so I will not be on that one.
And then is there a TCC on the 18th?
The TCC is, they moved that around so much, but I do have the exact one this time. No, let's put it down, no, I don't have it on the 8th. What'd you say, the 18th? I'll get in touch with you on that one. I thought I had that one.
And then Little Falls Airport on the 18th?
You know, we haven't had one for a while, so they just call, they tell me ahead of time, so put it down. Put it down. That's at noon.
Mr. Chair? Tabitha on the 18th?
Yeah, you have all in all?
Owners and operators, yes. Thank you. Sorry about that, but too many things written down, but anyway, that's all I have.
Okay. Is there anything else? If not, could I get
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
by Commissioner Jelinski, Commissioner Wincher? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Good job, Mike.
Way to go.
Outstanding.
10-10.
Guys, when it comes time to vote,